Hey guys, welcome to another episode of About Time with Michael, and I am stoked today because I have a very special guest for us. Today we have a guest who not only knows sports but watches like the back of his hand, and he's probably the most covered person in sports commentary. He knows everything from the FIFA World Cup to the Tour de France, and it's none other than David Basheer.
Michael, how are you? I'm not sure about the watch part.
I'll come in with that, don't worry. But sports, you got sports covered.
I have, well, most sports. Some I have very little interest in, but I've been fortunate to broadcast sport for a long, long time.
Awesome. So what we'll do is we'll go through, I'll just show the guys. David's got some awesome watches, so we are going to talk about watches. Just to show you, we've got a fantastic Panerai Radiomir here.
Yeah.
Which we'll come back to later. But first, I think everybody should know who David Basheer is. So how did it all start? How did you get into sports commentary? Can we go back to the beginnings?
Well, I suppose it probably goes back to school days where I, obviously competed in sport, but I had a passion to broadcast results and stories around. I was very curious about guys I went to school with. When I saw sport being broadcast, I was interested in the narrative and the description as well. So it sort of got me curious in journalism and radio to start off with. And when I went to university, I did the whole obligatory, uni radio news reading, and I got a job as a producer at 5AA way back in the day.
What year is this?
Mid-80s.
Yeah.
86-ish.
Is it a paid job?
Paid job,
yeah.
But I was doing study as well.
Okay.
And I produced an absolute maniac called Arch Tambakis, who was he's a bit of a talkback icon in Adelaide, and he went to Sydney for a while. I learned a lot, but probably not the right techniques in a way. But really interesting times before I got the ABC cadetship.
And that was in 86, you got that?
Yeah.
How was it like working for the ABC back then?
It was interesting because it was the last thread of cadets through the ABC for broadcast cadets. They have news cadets still, but they had every brand, every sort of branch of their broadcast arm having a young cadet. And I was fortunate to be one of two to win a sports cadetship. Thousands applied around Australia. I remember Malcolm McDonald, the local editor in South Australia, gave me a bit of a heads up. He liked me. He sort of gave me a bit of an indication what would be asked in the Sydney interview, the last interview before I got the cadetship, which really helped me out. But invaluable learning from great professionals back then.
Was it hard to get a job as a cadetship in the broadcasting back then?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. At the ABC, it certainly was. Because a lot of young aspiring commentators and journalists wanted that type of pathway because they weren't getting it in commercial radio. So I think I was very fortunate to look back, and just some of the people I worked with, like Tim Lane and Drew Morfitt, Greg Miles in Melbourne, David Morrow, and legends like Gordon Bray in Sydney.
Yeah.
I learned a lot from them about the way they prepare for a sports broadcast, the sort of curiosity and discipline they need to bring. So, I count myself pretty fortunate.
So when you say prepare, is there a lot of preparation that goes on? So before a match, do you have like a ritual or a routine that you get into before you do a big game?
Yeah, well, if it's a World Cup, and these days I'm basically doing World Cups, I'm doing a little bit of domestic broadcasting, but you take the Women's World Cup that I did for Channel 7 in 2023, or the year before the Men's World Cup, it's a good 6 months preparation.
Really, that long?
Not full time, Michael, but you're always watching matches. You're compiling your notes. You're building a team profile. And Australia's, I think, draw came out 6 to 7 months before the World Cup in 2022. So you're then looking at the opponents: France, Denmark, Tunisia. You're tapping into your network of commentary friends overseas and sharing information, and that's part of the joy of doing that. You're part of a bit of a network of commentators around the world, especially if you're as old as I am. So that's all really interesting, and I love helping other people out, and it's a very generous community too.
So, do you remember every player that's playing?
No.
So,
no.
how do you?
It's like
Because I always wonder how you guys do it. You're sitting there rattling off every player. I'm thinking that's unbelievable.
Well, now you're talking about now. I'm like a limited hard drive, right?
Yeah.
Once the event's over, you dump the information.
Okay, good.
Of course, some stays in.
Yeah.
But it's like swatting for an exam. The base knowledge of my football knowledge is great because I've done World Cup football and I love the sport.
Yeah.
And I've done a whole range of other sports as well. So yeah, the base knowledge is there, but you've got to really top up if you're, you're commentating a World Cup, like for Channel 7, for example. The Matilda's opponents.
You did the Matildas, yeah, 2023, you said.
They were 23, and their group opponents were, not in this order, but were Ireland, Nigeria, and Canada.
Yep.
Women's football is not big in Africa, so I had to really get to know some of the Nigerian players, Ireland as well.
How do you go about pronouncing their names and stuff?
You defer to a language group, and I'm very lucky to have an SBS background.
Yep.
And there's a lot of language groups at SBS, so if you can get to a commentator of that country, great. And that's what I did for Ireland and Nigeria. Not so much for Canada because they were pretty standard names. And you work out phonetically how to pronounce that name because you really got to respect the culture.
Of course.
And that's what SBS does teach you. It teaches you to call and commentate within a cultural prism. And of course, if you're commentating an Australian match, we are the host nation, or the nation where the broadcast goes back to. But there's another community also watching, and that's what's important.
With the Matildas, I mean, they did so well. Like, I don't think I've ever seen so many people rally behind a women's sports league. Like, me and my son, my daughter, my wife, we were all there every time they were playing. I mean, they did so good.
Yeah.
You got to give it to them. And they, I don't know, I mean, how do you feel about how they played?
Well, they rode an amazing national euphoria. And you consider they limped over the line. They beat Ireland in the first match, a really tough match. They were beaten by Nigeria in match 2.
Yeah.
So they were staring exit in the face against the reigning Olympic champions Canada when they went to Melbourne for the third match, and they hammered Canada. They just...
do you remember the score?
I think it was 3 or 4-0 from memory.
Yeah.
Mary Fowler, they all came out to play that day.
Mary was awesome. Mary, if you're out there watching this at all, I actually saw her in the city, and she was kind enough to pose for a photo with me and give me a hug and stuff. And I thought, wow, that's, some of the guys, they sort of just brush you off when they see a sports fan, but the girls were great.
Oh, they're terrific, and I think because they all come from humble backgrounds where they grew up sometimes having to play with the boys because there was no girls team in their upbringing. And Hayley Rasso was brilliant that day,
was great,
and Steph Catley. It was the captain in the absence of just incredible. And it was 4-0 because Hayley scored twice. So that was brilliant to get through the group stage so emphatically, kick the reigning Olympic champions out, and then you had Denmark in the round of 16. That amazing quarterfinal against France in Brisbane, where we got through on penalties. And by that stage, I think physically and emotionally, the team was pretty spent. So when they got to the semi-finals against England, Sam Kerr scored the worldie to make it 1-1, but we conceded shortly after. And it was just, they had nothing more to give, I think.
They're a rough team too, the English side. They're very strong in the way they're attacking.
Yeah. And they were probably, I wouldn't say unfortunate not to win the World Cup, but they were the equal, I think, of Spain as far as the quality over the tournament went. So it was no mean feat for the Matildas to get to the semis, the first ever senior Australian team to get to a World Cup semi-final. Yeah. It was at home, but it was just an amazing ride.
Yeah. Do you, in regards to sports in Australia, do you think that we're sort of falling a little bit behind in regards to soccer and things like that when you compare us to the rest of the world? Like the UK or Europe, for instance, which is, I know a lot of clients of mine that bring their kids over to Europe to play, or Japan, to try and get them in an A-class sort of team. Are we lacking here? Do we need more push or more money, or what is it?
Well, I think it's simply that in Europe, South America, football is number one. It's the first, it's the first sport that the kids play. In Australia, it's sometimes 3 and 4. Yeah. Like you've got, the two Aussie big rules. Football codes, Aussie rules and rugby league. cricket in the summer, they are the three sports ahead of football.
Yeah, right.
So the World Game, unfortunately, suffers from a relevance factor in between major events. And I don't think governments realise how much infrastructure is needed to get teams to the level that we've played. Like, remember the Socceroos were a heartbeat away from pushing Argentina in the round of 16 to extra time in that round of 16 match in Qatar.
Yeah.
And Argentina ended up winning the World Cup under, with Lionel Messi. So,
I remember that game. He controlled the game very well. Messi.
Of course, he was amazing. Yeah. But Australia, Gurren Kuol had a chance to equalise late in the match. And if we got to that point, then obviously there are things that are beyond technique and money. I remember the stat, Michael. The Socceroos were worth about 70 million in the open market, and Argentina were worth 900. Just under $1 billion. That was the relative worth of the two squads.
Yeah.
Obviously, Messi made up a huge amount of that worth and wealth, but at the end of the day, he was not at his peak at that point of his career. So it just shows you the disparity between the quality of the Australian and Argentinian players at that World Cup. But so we always punched above our weight.
Yeah, we've done well. I agree with that. Even in that, I think you said it was the 2003 World Cup.
06 when we...
06, yeah, sorry. That was fantastic,
yeah.
Watching them play. I mean, I remember everybody just getting excited. I got so excited.
Yeah,
I really thought we were going to go all the way as well.
And remember, the current crop of Matildas and Socceroo fans who have enjoyed great success in the last few World Cups weren't around in 06. So for them, that was their 06 moment.
Yeah, exactly.
We can remember that. John IWC scoring against Japan, the heartbreak of the round of 16 against Italy and Kaiserslautern.
Yeah.
There's been plenty of great moments.
In your career, challenges? Anything that's sort of...
It's always challenging to keep on doing events at a global level. It's been a great challenge. It's a privilege to commentate Australian national teams, whatever that may look like, whether it's Matildas, Socceroos, World Athletics, Tour de France. I've only done a couple of Tour de France races, but I've done a lot of cycling with SBS and different sports. So there's been so many challenges, but I remember the people I work with, all the characters and the interesting times. They're the ones. That's the thing that really sticks with me.
If you could do one sport, concentrate on one sport, what's your favourite? Do you love football? Football's your thing, is it?
Yeah.
Why's that?
Football's my sport, and I didn't grow up playing it. I grew up at university switching to football.
Yeah.
Very sort of modest player by any reasonable standard, but I think when you've commentated at an international level, really it seeps in. I've seen Premier League matches live, plenty of them. Been privileged enough to see club football in Argentina and Brazil. Seen the passion overflow from fans. So yeah, it's a great sport.
Any funny stories you can tell us?
I was thinking about it when you asked me before we rolled. The first ever NSL, National Soccer League match I called was actually in Adelaide City versus Wollongong, Macedonia. Adelaide City, they either played at Olympic Park way back in the old days. This is back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Sorry, 80s. God, I'm dating myself now. Highmarsh was being renovated and Olympic Park was out of action.
Yeah.
So they played at Newton Sportsfield, which is not too far away from where we're filming now. And I remember I get there and it was my first ever NSL match. I'd called State League matches and the Melbourne producer had flown over. David Zweck was his name. Yeah. And I said, Zwecky, where am I calling from? I got to the ground, I couldn't see any commentary box. He goes, see that cherry picker? You're going up in it. I was in the cage of a cherry picker. It was blustery conditions, big wind.
Moving around, was it?
Yeah. And when I told John IWC that story, because I see him a little bit in Melbourne, he's the coach of Western United, Socceroo legend, he said, you would not believe this, because he's 2 years younger than Ross, his brother. Ross was making his debut for Adelaide City that day. He goes, I was at Newton Sportsfield because his father, Rocky, coached Campbelltown for many years. Yep. He goes, as a 14-year-old, I remember you going up in the cherry picker.
I would have said no, mate. I'm not going up in there.
My notes were floating around. It was mayhem up there. But
what year was that? Because I remember Damien Murray scored, I think, the quickest ever goal. I remember I would have been 10 years old, sitting with my uncle, and he gets the ball, kick off, and he kicks it straight into the goal.
Yeah, I think it was 3.86 seconds. I'll stand to be corrected. It was around that time.
Frogger,
frame.
you would know,
Yeah.
but
And it was the fastest ever top flight goal in Australia.
I couldn't believe I was sitting there eating a sandwich. I remember looking up, and all of a sudden everybody's screaming, and I thought nothing could have happened, mate. And he did it. That was
one touch and just pinged it.
Yeah, I mean, has that happened since? You think? I don't know.
It's happened at a global level, but not in Australia. That was Frogger at his best.
Oh, mate, he was very good. So interesting watches. Where did that all start? Like, I mean, we've known each other quite a while as well, and I think you sort of over the last 10 years been buying some watches for yourself and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I remember you had a beautiful Milgauss.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to that watch?
It was stolen, actually. I was living in Sydney for many years. I hate to say it too, and I bought it way back. Beautiful Milgauss.
Was it the black? It was the black dial version.
Yeah.
With the green glass.
Green glass.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I just couldn't stop looking at it when I first bought it. It was just.
Was that for a special gift for yourself?
I just think I don't know what happened. I just think I fell in love with it because I saw it on a sports person. I think it was a Formula One driver.
Okay, yeah.
And I just loved the look of it. And so through a friend, I got it for a very reasonable price. I'm not sure if we can say that here, but way back, it was like 16 years ago now.
Oh, wow. A long time. That's when they first came out?
No, sorry.
Wouldn't have been that long.
No, maybe would 12 years?
12, yeah.
12 sounds about right. And look, one thing led to another. The house I was living in, I was renovating. There was a lot of work people through it. I had a bit of a brain fade. I always used to lock my watches away, not so much in a safe, but a filing cabinet with a key. And for whatever reason, I didn't. It was in the sock drawer, and the next day it wasn't there. And even the cops had the serial number, everything, and they just could never. They
couldn't find it.
Couldn't find it.
So what a shame. Such a nice watch as well.
Great to watch.
And to change that or commemorate that watch, I think we got that one.
Yeah, which is the Royal Maces.
Yeah. Do you mind if we show everybody?
Yeah, the Top Gun.
Because you loved this one when you first came in.
Oh, I just love this.
I think it was a special order for you.
The beauty and simplicity of it. It sort of has an elegant ruggedness about it, don't you reckon?
Yeah, it's fantastic. So these were actually made for the Top Gun fighter pilots, and the colours, the yellow, the ceramic black.
What about the trimming on the
band?
Yeah, I love that. And there's different bands you can get, obviously, but it's a beautiful watch.
And you've got the logo on the back. Oh, this is going to be hard to get because it's so shiny, isn't it?
And what's it on the outside? You're better at the materials. Is it titanium on the outside?
It's actually, it's all serotonin, to be honest.
Serotonin, that's it, yeah.
But it's a beautiful looking watch, and I think they made about 5 of them for the different
Top Gun,
team or pilots, and the Royal Marks was one of them. There was something that they did it. There was a red one. I can't remember the name of it now, but that was really nice too. But this one just stood out, and I remember you walking in and saying, "That's the watch."
When I saw it, when you pulled it out, I just, and I'm very much an instinctive buyer. I don't look. It has to be kinesthetic to me. I've got to feel it, and when I saw it, I remember ringing my good mate Tass Rufos. I hope he's watching here.
He's a big watch guy too.
He loves his watches and very knowledgeable too. Like incredibly knowledgeable.
He knows his stuff. Loves his Daytonas. Loves his Speedmasters.
He'd be a good topic. The problem is, if you wanted to get under 2 hours, good luck.
You're with him?
Yes.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, he bothers me for a good solid hour easily.
G'day, Tass. But his knowledge of watches outstanding and really deep, intricate knowledge too. And you respect that because that's someone who loves the beauty of watches. Like I love the practicality and the beauty. Sometimes the watch, in my view, and I don't want to sound too wanky, but sometimes the watch tells you something about the person, but then sometimes the person tells you something about the watch.
That's true. Exactly. I agree with that. I mean, you've got 3 different kinds of watches here. So, this could be said you've got 3 different personalities. Tell us about the Seiko you've got here. This is a Prestige automatic.
Yeah.
It's quite a beautiful looking dial. I mean, Seiko have always been known for doing wonderful dials.
Yeah. It's elegant. It was a gift from a friend of mine, Andrew LeBroy, who used to play on the professional golf tour in Australia and Asia. And how do you pronounce that? Was it Presage or Prestige? Or,
Yeah, Prestige, yeah.
yeah. It's just got a lovely lines and elegance to it.
Yeah, it's hard to show the guys at home, but it's sort of like an Auckland silver white dial. It's really stunning.
And what about the dial? The way it is almost like a corrugated feature to the dial. I love it. I really love that watch. It's my everyday watch, actually. Of course, you know, the Top Gun gets a run.
You wear that most days?
Yeah, most days. But I'm doing a bit of university lecturing now, and I always tend to pull out the Seiko for those days.
Do you get self-conscious at all wearing, you know, say the IWC on certain events and things like that, where you wear the Seiko instead, or it doesn't really bother you?
Not really, because
or do people know?
Well, I don't think, for me, I don't really notice. Like, okay, you know, Rolexes are unbelievable watches and so forth, and you know, I am not a watch aficionado, but I know what I like, and sometimes it doesn't always come with a high price tag either.
Correct, I agree. Can you tell us about the Panerai?
So the Panerai,
because that's a radium here.
yeah, I got in Shinjuku during the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, which was partly locked down because of COVID. So it was actually competed in 2020, but a year later. In the second week, we were out of quarantine, which meant we could travel outside of the bubble of the hotel to the IBC and some of the stadia we were calling from. So I made a trip down. A friend of mine, Josh Burek, a dear friend of mine who lives in Singapore, is a big watch guy. He texted me a location to go to.
It's a pre-owned one when you bought it?
Pre-owned,
yep.
But it was in such great condition. If you have a look at it, Michael.
It's fantastic. It's actually one of my sort of favourite references that Panerai make, because it's so historic for their collection.
And it's without the
crown guard here.
Crown guard, which I prefer on my wrist, because I have got it's not like a robust front rower rugby league wrist. So for me, it's a really interesting shape too, and the colouring, stitching on the band. I love it. I love all three watches.
I mean, the original Panerais used to have Rolex movements in them. They actually went to Rolex and asked them to make movements for them.
Right.
In the 1950s, when they were only making them, not for sale, only making them for Italian naval divers.
Yeah.
So it was a secret project that they were doing. And then they didn't become famous. I mean, that's called like pre-Van Damme is what it's called. And it didn't really become famous as a brand until Sylvester Stallone wore it in Daylight.
Wow.
Yeah, and so he actually wore a Lumina Marina, and I don't remember, it's called the Daylight model now, but I think he wore a sort of a base model, they call it. And it was just awesome because, you know, he was saving all these people as the whole tunnel's flooding, and he's wearing this awesome watch. And for me, watching that, I was just like, I need that watch. And back then they came in like a little wooden box, so they didn't cost a whole lot of money. And nowadays, you know, something that is pre-Van Damme, so before Richmond, which is the company that owns Panerai now, bought them out. I mean, they're worth huge money now for things like that, because they're technically vintage to the brand. But I think you've done well with this one, to be honest. Do you remember what this cost you back then?
It wasn't a lot. It was, I'm going to say, around 4,500
Australian?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, because I reckon they sort of sold for around the sort of $6,000-7,000 mark then. And they did a manual wind version, but you opted for the automatic, which I think is a little bit nicer.
Yeah.
With a second hand.
And you know, back to IWC, switching back to, they helped me out. I asked them, you know, do you want me to wear one of your watches during the Women's World Cup? And they gave, and I should have come armed with more knowledge.
I've got a photo with you with Harry Cool.
Yeah, well, that's with this watch.
Yeah.
But what's the famous blue banded?
That's the Formula? The Patronus, the one that JP has. Yes, exactly. They gave you one of those when it first came out to wear it on that.
On the World Cup coverage.
That's right, I remember that.
And he was wrapped. So.
Well, Quinton loves you from IWC. I mean, he speaks very highly of you.
And Quinton was the one that he gave
it to you to wear.
The watch. So thank you, Quinton. It was. A lot of people commented during the World Cup because they knew me from SBS, but they're going, "What are you doing working for Channel 7?" And that is an amazing blue, because it's a very vibrant blue band.
is.
But if you look at the watch, it's a beautiful watch.
Yeah, it's stunning. All titanium case.
Yeah.
He never gave it to you though?
Well, I gave it back. No, I think he would have. In all fairness, I think if I didn't give it back, he would have
let you have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just thought I'd do the right thing.
So how does it work with you with SBS and Channel 7? You're allowed to work with both companies?
I just did that one project for Channel 7.
It?
Yeah, they don't do a lot of football.
Okay.
SBS have, asked me to do the next World Cup, which is in 3 countries. We don't even know whether, if the Socceroos qualify, whether they'll be in Canada, USA or Mexico.
Oh, so you're doing the next one?
That's next year.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So what's next for David Basheer? What's looking for the future over the next sort of 5 years?
Well, just the odd media job, Michael. I think at my age I'm scaling down.
Yep.
I'm doing a bit of teaching at one of the universities in Melbourne, La Trobe. Shout out to all the La Trobe students if they watch aficionados. But just trying to enjoy life, travel a little bit more, because I've worked for 30 plus years and not always had the time to really enjoy the areas that I worked. So I really do want to travel a little bit more and maybe just take a breath,
Awesome.
More as a spectator than a commentator these days.
Fantastic. Dave, it was awesome to have you on the show.
Good on you, Michael.
Thank you very much for showing all your watches and your life with broadcasting. I appreciate it very much.
No, I appreciate it too. Good on you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.